Well, hi everyone, and welcome to what is our final edition of Feeling Smarter for 2024. I'm joined in person with my co-host Tim Miller. G'day, Tim. How are you?
Yeah, going pretty well, Aaron. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Well, as we kind of wrap up 2024, we thought we'd just reflect on what's been happening in the SMSF industry, and there is a lot of discussion, and we've spoken about it ad nauseum all year around things like Division 296 and the NALI measures and so forth. But in your mind, Tim, what were some of the things that you saw that shaped SMSFs as they are at the end of the 2024 year?
Yeah, I guess I almost try to look at things from a super reform point of view and say, okay, well, we go back to 2016 where super reform was announced, and there were a number of measures that were introduced from the 1st of July 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and then we subsequently saw additional changes. But through that time, we've seen announcements made and a number of things introduced, and I guess in also many respects, the ATO highlighting areas that they need to go back and revisit
Yep.
to try and keep them up to the super reform standards. And so this year we saw the culmination of a number of those things because we saw the finalisation of NALI and the rules around that. And I say finalisation, we've still got a draft ruling to get through, but hopefully that's through sooner rather than later. But then the contribution ruling and the pension ruling, for me, they're two pretty significant items because they're two tax documents that shape the way we operate in the SMSF space, specifically around when pensions commence and when they cease, and also how we can make and accept contributions in the superannuation environment. So to get finalisation of the pension ruling, to get the final draft release of the contribution ruling, both of them throwing up some spanners in the way that we operate, mean that we've got some work to do as an industry leading into 2025 to really appreciate what the way or how the regulator interprets those rulings and those requirements around how we operate.
Yeah, so I think from my point of view, the regulators had a much greater uh, application to the sector. I know it sounds a bit weird me saying that they are the regulator,
Yeah.
but when you look at a legislative perspective, yeah, there's been a lot of talk and stuff around Div 296 and so forth, but there hasn't really been a significant amount of change on the policy front. Whereas when we think about the regulator, you spoke about those public rulings. We've also seen them very targeted in terms of illegal activity. There was a range of information in the first half of this year that really explored that. We've also seen them target areas around market valuations. So the regulator's really playing quite a significant rise. We would expect them to do.
Yep.
But when I look at that, I kind of feel like that to me stands out much more than what we have seen on the policy front.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think so that's from a regulatory point of view, and
Yep.
then from a government and policy point of view, I think obviously, and we've spoken about it significantly over recent times, the introduction of the legacy pension amnesty regulations and the new regulations around allocations from reserves will have a part to play. You know, there won't be a long-term part to play, but it will have a part to play within our industry. But it's also given us the opportunity to reflect and say, okay, well, over these last sort of 6-7 years, what other significant items do we need to tick off from previous budgets and other things? And the one that stands out for me, which ultimately goes well back beyond super reform and the introduction of it, is the whole residency piece and the changes around central management and control, active member test, all those elements. You know, will we see some, and maybe not in an election year, but will we see some clear air to get those changes made to assist, say, SMSF trustees or whatever who are residing overseas to be able to manage their fund without any sort of compliance concern hanging over their head?
Yeah, and the other one for me, I think, has been just statistically what is going on in the sector. So we have now seen SMSFs reach $1 trillion of assets, and probably off the back of a couple of things. One, we're seeing individuals who are younger than ever before looking to set up self-managed super funds, and we've seeing that predominantly because of the level of assets that they have through compulsory super, which has continued to ratchet up, and we're sort of going through that period to get us to 12%. And then you may argue that there are some other things going on within superannuation more broadly that are attracting people to SMSFs to take a greater level of control as well. So to me, seeing the run rate of SMSFs continue to improve, quite clearly there's still a role to play around regulation and those that are going in for the right reasons and all that sort of stuff. So I think both the ATO as gatekeeper for entrants coming in and the role that ASIC's going to play around appropriate advice are all relevant and have all been part of this year's discussions as well, in particular with the CSLR and those. But to me, there's a real positive news story still coming out of the SMSF sector because it continues to represent a quarter or more of all assets within the superannuation system.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's no doubt about it. And so to actually get some regulatory position on a lot of issues helps in the decision-making process of self-managed versus others, and whether it comes with operational ease or a lot of other distractions. And then I think there's been a lot of distractions, and now some of those are hopefully disappearing, and we can just move on with the way we apply things.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not going to jump into what we think might occur in 2025. We will provide that to you as our first session for the year, but it is just a timely reminder again that there is so much that goes on within the SMSF industry. So we at Smarter SMSF are quite clearly one of the trusted service providers in this space around what's happening in the SMSF industry. And if you want to find out more about some of the things that we spoke about today or the topics that we have recently spoke about or will speak about as we move into 2025, I invite you to take up the opportunity to join us for our round of national events in March and April next year, our SMSF Day 2025. We've already got a great sort of response in our super early bird, so you can go and visit smartersmsf.com/SMSF Day and register. 5 capital cities, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth. You not only hear from me, you get to hear from Tim together. And Tim, we've got a brand new case study that we are working on at the moment that will make it very, very interesting when we think about many of the topics that we're not only talking about now, but I suspect we'll be talking about by the time we come to those events too.
Absolutely. Can't wait to do it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you once again. Take this opportunity to say to all of our audience that listen to these Feeling Smarter videos, a huge thank you, a Merry Christmas, and we look forward to you joining us again in 2025. Bye for now.
See you all.